high-profile wife had fun with her boss at the hotel, served her and went to bang his hot model wife served her at the hotel they were sleeping in. It was a Thursday night, and I, David Marshall, was standing in front of the large glass windows of my penthouse overlooking the city. The lights below twinkled, as if mocking me for what I was about to do. I had it all: wealth, status, power, and until recently, I thought I had the perfect marriage. But that illusion shattered the day I discovered Rachel's affair. I had suspected something was off for a while. The late-night work meetings, the sudden business trips to exclusive hotels, and the way Rachel would return home emotionally distant. I brushed it off, convincing myself that it was the stress of her high-stakes career as a corporate lawyer. I trusted her until I couldn't anymore. One night, about a month ago, I caught wind of something that confirmed my worst fears. I was out with an old friend who happened to work in the same office building as Rachel. He mentioned seeing her at the hotel bar with her boss, Richard Sterling, the same boss she constantly praised for his brilliance. At first, I tried to laugh it off, but my gut churned with suspicion. Why hadn't she mentioned running into Richard during her business trip? Curiosity, or rather, the need for the truth, ate at me. That same night, I accessed Rachel's email. It took a few minutes of searching through innocuous work messages before I found the smoking gun, a reservation for a 5-star hotel under both her and Richard's names. Room 1812. That was the moment my world turned upside down. I didn't confront her right away. No, I was too calculated for that. I needed proof, something undeniable. So I waited, plotting, letting the anger simmer under the surface. I hired a private investigator to follow her, and within days, I had the evidence. Pictures, videos, everything I needed to bring her world crashing down. The tipping point came on a night that would have been any other boring evening at home. Rachel was working late again. She kissed me on the cheek before leaving the house, her perfume lingering in the air like poison. I pretended everything was fine, like the perfect, unsuspecting husband. But I had already made my move. The investigator had texted me an hour earlier, confirming that Rachel and Richard had checked into the same hotel again. Another business trip? No. This time, it was something more sinister. They were staying overnight, and I knew what that meant. I drove straight to the hotel, fury and adrenaline pumping through my veins. My plan was simple: catch them red-handed and serve her divorce papers right there. I had already contacted my lawyer. The documents were drawn up and ready to be delivered. As I pulled up to the hotel, I felt an odd sense of calm wash over me. This was it, the moment of reckoning. I walked through the lobby with purpose, the sleek marble floors echoing my footsteps. My heart pounded as I approached the elevator, ascending to the 18th floor where Rachel and Richard were indulging in their little secret. Room 1812. I stood outside the door for a moment, steeling myself for what I was about to do. The hallway was eerily quiet, the faint hum of the hotel's air conditioning the only sound breaking the silence. I knocked. No response. I knocked again, harder this time. A few seconds later, the door creaked open, and there she stood, Rachel. Her hair tousled, her blouse slightly unbuttoned, and the look on her face said it all. She didn't expect to see me, not here, not now. Behind her, I could see Richard lounging in a robe, a glass of champagne in hand, looking like he didn't have a care in the world. David? Rachel's voice trembled, but she quickly masked it with that cool lawyer exterior she'd perfected over the years. What are you doing here? I could ask you the same thing, I replied, my voice dangerously calm. I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out the neatly folded divorce papers. I think these are for you. Her face paled as she stared at the documents, and for the first time in our marriage, I saw genuine fear in her eyes. I pushed past her into the room, not caring for the scene I was about to create. Richard had the audacity to smile, leaning back like this was some kind of joke. You didn't think I'd find out? I said, turning to Rachel, ignoring the smug look on Richard's face. Or did you just not care? She was speechless, the cool, calculated woman I had married now unraveling before me. I could see the gears turning in her head, trying to come up with some excuse, some explanation that would soften the blow. But there was no excuse. I wasn't finished. I'm done with the lies, Rachel. You've had your fun, but it ends here. You can keep Richard, I gestured towards her boss, because I've already moved on. And then, the bombshell. In fact, I have a date tonight, with Natalie. Rachel's eyes widened in disbelief. She knew exactly who Natalie was, the gorgeous, young model I'd been photographed with at a charity event just a few weeks ago. She had thought nothing of it at the time, just me playing the part of the charming husband. But it was more than that now. I reveled in the shock that rippled through the room. Rachel had lost control of the narrative. She was no longer the one calling the shots. As I turned to leave, I gave Richard a final glance. Good luck, mate. You're going to need it. With that, I walked out of the hotel room, my heart racing, but my mind clear. The game had changed. Rachel thought she could cheat and get away with it, but I wasn't the fool she took me for. As I strode out of the hotel, the divorce papers left burning in Rachel's hands. A strange feeling of satisfaction coursed through me. But this wasn't over yet. No, it was just the beginning. Little did Rachel know, her boss, Richard Sterling, was more entangled in this web of deception than she could ever imagine. I got into my car, the leather seats cold against my back, and dialed a number. The private investigator, Matt, picked up after 2 rings. "You ready for phase 2? I asked, my tone cold, but my heart racing in anticipation. "Everything's in place," Matt replied. "You're going to want to hear this." "What do you mean?" "Let's just say your wife isn't the only one with secrets," Matt said cryptically, before explaining what he had uncovered. It turned out that Richard, Mr. High and Mighty CEO, had been playing a much bigger game than I thought. The affair with Rachel? It wasn't a simple fling. It was part of a larger scheme, one that involved corporate fraud, embezzlement, and using Rachel as a pawn. My stomach churned with a mix of fury and intrigue. Rachel had no idea that while she thought she was getting special treatment at work, she was actually being used as a scapegoat for Richard's dirty dealings. And the worst part? She could go down for it, taking the fall for a crime she didn't even know she was part of. Matt had uncovered emails, hidden accounts, and detailed plans linking Richard to a massive financial scandal that would ruin his company and Rachel by association. She wasn't just cheating on me with her boss, she was about to become his patsy. "Do you want to let her know?" Matt asked, his voice cutting through my thoughts. I paused. This was the twist I hadn't expected. My original plan was to humiliate her, serve the papers, and walk away with my head held high. But now, I had the power to destroy not just her affair, but her entire career. She had betrayed me, yes, but she was also about to be blindsided by Richard's manipulation. "Not yet," I finally answered, a slow grin spreading across my face. "Let's wait. Let her sweat a little." I knew this twist could change everything. Part of me felt a twinge of pity for Rachel, but that was quickly buried beneath the rush of adrenaline. She had made her choices, and now she was trapped in a web far more dangerous than she realized. If she thought getting caught cheating was the worst thing that could happen to her, she was dead wrong. I hung up the phone and leaned back, processing everything. Rachel was going to hit rock bottom, and hard, but not just because of me. She was about to lose everything she had built, not only in our marriage but in her career. The boss she had chosen over me was about to ruin her life. It felt too perfect. I could expose the affair and leave her without a penny. Or, I could sit back, let Richard's house of cards collapse, and watch her crash along with it. Either way, the satisfaction was going to be immense. And that's when I realized how much I was enjoying this. Rachel thought she was the one in control, the one pulling the strings, but she was wrong. I was the puppet master now. I smirked as I pulled out my phone and scrolled to Natalie's name. I had promised her a night out, and now that the first phase of my plan was complete, it was time to celebrate. I wasn't just going to win this game, I was going to enjoy every second of it. I hit dial, and Natalie answered on the first ring. "Ready for round 2? I asked, my voice dripping with confidence. She laughed, a sultry sound that sent a thrill through me. "I was born ready, babe." With everything falling perfectly into place, I knew I was just getting started. Rachel had no idea what was coming next, and the best part, I hadn't even unleashed my revenge yet. That was still to come. "You're doing great following this. The drama is building, and we're just getting to the good stuff. Let's keep this momentum going, it's going to be worth it." The thrill of revenge coursed through my veins like wildfire. The more I contemplated the situation, the more I realized how intricate my plan could become. This wasn't just about serving Rachel her divorce papers, this was about dismantling everything she had worked for and watching the chaos unfold from a front row seat. After my call with Natalie, I felt a surge of anticipation. I hadn't just planned to meet her, I needed to ensure she was on board with my scheme. After all, this wasn't just a simple night out anymore, this was going to be a strategic distraction, a chance to create a situation where Rachel would be blindsided by the truth while I enjoyed my life. I picked up my phone and texted Natalie, asking her to meet me at a trendy bar downtown, a place known for its extravagant cocktails and dim, seductive ambience. It was the perfect backdrop for what I had in mind. Within minutes, she replied, confirming that she'd be there. While I waited, my mind raced with ideas. I pulled out my laptop, the glow illuminating my face in the dim light of the penthouse, and began drafting a detailed plan. I knew I had to play my cards right. Everything needed to unfold perfectly. I needed to gather every scrap of evidence that would connect Rachel to Richard and his shady dealings. The emails and documents Matt had uncovered were just the beginning. I wanted to create an unassailable case against them, something that would leave Rachel utterly defenseless. I contacted Matt again. I need everything you have on Richard. Every email, every phone call, anything that connects him to this fraud, and I want it yesterday. Got it, he replied, his voice calm and confident. I'll have everything compiled for you by tomorrow morning. I hung up and leaned back, satisfaction bubbling within me. This was turning into a well-orchestrated symphony, and I was the maestro. The plan for the evening with Natalie was not just about enjoying the company of a beautiful woman. I needed it to be an event that Rachel would notice, an affair that would fuel her jealousy. I wanted her to see me happy, enjoying life without her, while she was stuck in a whirlwind of guilt and chaos. I arrived at the bar early, the dim lights casting a warm glow that felt inviting. The soft music set a relaxed atmosphere, perfect for what was about to unfold. When Natalie arrived, she looked stunning in a sleek black dress that hugged her figure perfectly, her confidence radiating. "Hey, gorgeous," I greeted her, planting a kiss on her cheek. "You look amazing." "Thanks. You're not so bad yourself," she shot back, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "What's the plan for tonight?" I leaned in closer, lowering my voice. "We're going to have a fantastic night, but it's also going to serve a purpose. I need Rachel to see how happy I am without her. We're going to post some photos online that will grab her attention." Her eyebrows raised in intrigue. "Oh, I love where this is going. What do you have in mind?" I explained the plan, outlining how we'd share photos of us enjoying cocktails, laughing, and having a great time. We'd even throw in some playful shots that implied a little more than friendship, nothing too risky, but just enough to light the fire of jealousy in Rachel. Natalie laughed, clearly enjoying the idea. "I can get behind that. Let's make her regret ever crossing you." I needed to ensure Rachel's evening was just as chaotic as mine, so I picked up my phone and sent her a text, deliberately casual but tinged with a hint of provocation. "Out with friends tonight. Should be a fun one. Hope you're having a great evening too." I could practically hear the wheels turning in her mind. She'd definitely want to know who I was with and where I was going. That's when I decided to make it even more interesting. I pulled out my phone again and sent a few more texts, this time to some of our mutual friends, letting them know I was out with a new friend and encouraging them to post about it on social media. I wanted to plant the seeds of doubt and jealousy. The idea of seeing those posts would gnaw at her, making her second-guess everything she had taken for granted. "David, you're evil." Natalie laughed, shaking her head. "But I love it. Let's make her feel every ounce of that regret." With everything set in motion, we enjoyed our evening, the drinks flowing and laughter filling the air. Each picture we took together felt like a dagger aimed directly at Rachel's heart. I made sure to keep my phone buzzing with notifications, creating an aura of excitement that could easily be felt. As the night progressed, I was also preparing the final phase of my plan, how to expose Rachel and Richard for their betrayal and deceit. I wanted it to happen at the perfect moment, when they were least expecting it. I envisioned a scene straight out of a movie, Rachel arriving at the office, completely unaware of what was coming, while I sat back, armed with evidence and ready to watch her downfall. I needed to orchestrate a meeting with Matt to review all the evidence and finalize my approach. I texted him to meet me at my penthouse the next day. "Make sure to bring everything," I instructed. "I want to have it ready to go by the time Rachel's at the office." "Consider it done," he replied. With the plan in motion and anticipation coursing through me, I leaned back, allowing myself to savor the moment. The satisfaction of the impending chaos was intoxicating. Rachel had chosen her path, and now she would pay for it. The night came to an end, and as I dropped Natalie off at her apartment, we exchanged heated kisses, the thrill of our adventure igniting a spark I hadn't felt in a long time. It was exhilarating, and the excitement of revenge made everything feel alive. As I drove home, I couldn't help but smile. The pieces were falling into place, and soon, Rachel would realize just how deep she had dug her own grave. Little did she know, her world was about to come crashing down, and I would be watching it all unfold from a distance, reveling in the chaos. The next day dawned bright and clear, a stark contrast to the storm brewing just beneath the surface of my life. I awoke early, my mind racing with anticipation as I prepared for the day ahead. My thoughts were consumed by the plan I had meticulously crafted to bring Rachel's world crashing down. The sense of control I felt was exhilarating, as if I were a conductor orchestrating a grand symphony of chaos. Final preparations. After a quick breakfast, I met up with Matt at my penthouse. He arrived carrying a folder thick with documents, evidence, and transcripts that would ensure Rachel's downfall. We exchanged nods, the air thick with tension as we settled in at the dining table, an impromptu war room. "Let's go through everything," I said, my voice steady but laced with excitement. "I want to make sure we have all our bases covered." Matt spread the papers across the table, each one a piece of the puzzle that would expose not only Rachel's betrayal but also Richard's scheme. There were emails outlining their financial misdeeds, messages that hinted at their affair, and detailed reports of Richard's attempts to manipulate Rachel into taking the fall for him. I could practically feel the weight of the impending revelations pressing down on my shoulders. "Everything checks out," Matt confirmed, a hint of pride in his voice. "If you present this to the right people, it'll take down both of them." "Perfect," I replied, adrenaline surging through me. "Let's make sure Rachel gets a front row seat to her own demise." We decided to time the reveal for the following day, a Tuesday, when Rachel had her weekly meeting with Richard at the office. The thought of her walking into that room, blissfully unaware of the trap that awaited her, sent a thrill through me. As the hours ticked by, I kept myself busy with small distractions, but my mind always drifted back to the plan. I texted Natalie, letting her know what was about to go down and inviting her to celebrate later. "Just wait and see," I wrote, excitement bubbling beneath the surface. When evening arrived, I donned my sharpest suit, tailored and crisp, designed to make me look like the man I was becoming: powerful, unyielding, and ready to seize control of my life. The reflection in the mirror showed a man ready to reclaim his narrative, to take charge of his fate. The next day, I arrived at Rachel's office just before noon, my heart racing with anticipation. I had arranged for Matt to be in the vicinity, ready to capture the moment with a hidden camera. He'd be our eyes and ears, ensuring that I wouldn't miss a second of the drama as it unfolded. I walked into the office building with confidence, nodding at the receptionist as I passed by. I could hear the muffled sounds of conversation coming from the conference room where Rachel and Richard would be meeting. My pulse quickened at the thought of confronting her. I stationed myself just outside the door, my breath steadying as I prepared for the confrontation. I listened intently, the words drifting out to me like whispered secrets. "I'm so glad we're doing this, Rachel." Richard's voice was smooth, charismatic, almost charming. "You're a key player in this project. I need your full commitment." "Of course, Richard," Rachel replied, her tone excited, completely unaware of the storm about to hit her. Taking a deep breath, I opened the door, stepping into the room. Their heads snapped up, shock painted across their faces. Well, what do we have here?" I said, my voice low and menacing, laced with the satisfaction of revealing the truth. Rachel's eyes widened, her mouth agape as she registered my presence. "David, what are you doing here?" she stammered, clearly flustered. I smirked, taking a step closer. "Just delivering a little surprise. I thought you might want to hear about some of the interesting things I found out." Richard's face paled as he shifted uncomfortably in his seat, the charm that usually radiated from him evaporating into thin air. "David, this isn't what it looks like," he began, but I cut him off. "Oh, it's exactly what it looks like," I replied, pulling out the folder from my briefcase and tossing it onto the table. "You think you can play both of us and get away with it?" Rachel picked up the folder, her hands shaking as she flipped through the contents. Confusion and disbelief flickered across her face, quickly replaced by anger. "What is this? You can't just barge in here and..." "Barge in?" I interrupted, a laugh escaping my lips. "Oh, sweet Rachel, you have no idea how deep this rabbit hole goes." I watched as the realization dawned on her. The emails, the shady dealings, and the implications of her being caught up in Richard's schemes, all laid bare in front of her. "You were used, Rachel," I said, savoring every word. "Richard didn't care about you. You were just a pawn in his game." Richard's composure began to crack, his arrogance dissolving as he faced the truth. "You think you can do this? You'll ruin us both," he shouted, desperation lacing his voice. "Not us, Richard. Just you," I said, feeling the power shift in the room. "Rachel, you're going to need to start making some calls. This isn't just a little affair, it's corporate fraud. You could lose everything." Her face paled as she processed the gravity of the situation. "David, I didn't know. I thought I was helping the company," she cried, tears welling in her eyes. "Oh, save it, Rachel," I sneered. "You're going to have to answer for your choices." Just then, Matt burst through the door, camera rolling, capturing the entire scene. "I've got it all," he said with a satisfied grin. "This is going to be epic." Rachel spun around, her anger morphing into panic. "You can't do this. I'll fight back. I have connections." I leaned in closer, my voice dripping with disdain. "Good luck with that. The more you fight, the more they'll see you as the problem. You're already in too deep, and now it's time to face the consequences. Richard tried to salvage the situation, his demeanor shifting back to a desperate charm. We can work something out, David. You don't want this to escalate. We can fix this. But the facade was gone. I was no longer the hurt husband, I was the man who held the cards, and I intended to play them well. Oh, I want this to escalate, I replied, savoring the moment. I want everyone to know what you've done. With that, I turned to leave, the sound of chaos erupting behind me as Rachel and Richard began to argue, their voices rising to a fever pitch. I walked out of the office, a feeling of euphoria washing over me. The trap I had set was not just a success, it was a spectacle. After my dramatic exit, I headed straight to my favorite restaurant, where I had reserved a private booth for the evening. I texted Natalie, letting her know the show was over, and she responded with enthusiasm, eager to celebrate the victory. As the waiter poured us champagne, I couldn't help but feel a rush of triumph. This was my moment, and I was ready to enjoy every sip, every bite, and every second of this newfound freedom. When Natalie arrived, her face lit up with excitement as she slid into the booth across from me. You did it, she exclaimed, raising her glass in a toast. To new beginnings, to new beginnings. I echoed, the sparkle of the champagne mirroring the glint of victory in my eyes. As we celebrated, I replayed the events of the day in my mind, the sweet satisfaction of Rachel's impending downfall fueling my excitement. I was no longer the man she had betrayed, I was the one in control, and that felt exhilarating. But deep down, I also recognized that the real thrill wasn't just about revenge. It was about reclaiming my life, my happiness, and my future. As the night wore on, I relished every moment, surrounded by laughter and celebration. I had taken back my power, and nothing would ever be the same again. The morning sun poured through the sheer curtains of my penthouse, casting warm beams across the polished wooden floors. As I sipped my coffee, the events of the previous day played like a highlight reel in my mind. The exhilaration of revealing Rachel's betrayal still buzzed within me, but the reality of the aftermath began to set in. I was no longer just the wrong husband, I was a man who had taken back his life, and with that came a new set of challenges. That morning, I received multiple notifications on my phone. News of the explosive confrontation had spread like wildfire, and the office gossip mill was churning out speculation. A text from Matt confirmed my suspicions, the company is in chaos. Richard's already trying to spin this. I chuckled at the thought of him desperately trying to salvage his reputation, knowing he'd never be able to outrun the truth. Rachel, on the other hand, was in full crisis mode. I could only imagine the scene at her office, the frantic phone calls, and the tears streaming down her face as she faced the fallout of her choices. While she had once been so confident in her career and her marriage, now she was left to pick up the pieces of her shattered world. By noon, the story had gained traction on social media. Headlines blared CEO's affair expose scandal at ACG Corp, accompanied by a photo of Rachel looking distraught. The media loved a good scandal, and this was just the fuel they needed to keep a fire burning. I watched the news unfold, a mix of satisfaction and disbelief filling me. This was bigger than I had imagined. I had unwittingly thrown a grenade into the world of corporate America. I received a call from Natalie, her voice brimming with excitement. David, this is huge. You're trending online. She laughed, her joy contagious. The fallout is going to be epic. Are you ready for what's next? Ready as I'll ever be, I replied, my mind racing with possibilities. But it's not over yet. I want to make sure Rachel understands the consequences of her actions. Later that evening, I received an unexpected call. It was Rachel. My first instinct was to ignore it, but then I remembered my plans. Hello? I answered, my tone cold. David, please, she pleaded, her voice shaky. I need to talk to you. About what? How you were sleeping with your boss while I was being faithful. I retorted, bitterness creeping into my words. Just give me a chance to explain, she said, desperation thick in her voice. I made a mistake, a huge mistake, and I can't take it back. But I want to fix this. Fix what, Rachel? I snapped. Your affair, your lies? You have to be joking. There's no fixing this. Please, she urged, her tone shifting to genuine remorse. I realize I've lost everything. My career, my reputation. I don't want to lose you too. After much deliberation, I reluctantly agreed to meet her. We decided on a neutral location, a small cafe a few blocks from my apartment. As I arrived, I felt a mix of anger and apprehension. I had orchestrated her downfall, and now she wanted to spin the narrative back in her favor. Rachel was already seated when I walked in. Her face was pale, eyes red from crying, and I felt a flicker of sympathy, though I quickly buried it. This was not the time for weakness. She looked up at me, and for a moment, I saw a glimpse of the woman I once loved. But that was buried beneath layers of betrayal. David, she began, her voice trembling. Thank you for coming. Let's cut to the chase, I replied, taking a seat across from her. You made your choices, Rachel. You chose Richard over me, over our life together. I know, and I can't express how sorry I am, she said, her voice cracking. I didn't think it would go this far. I was blinded by ambition. Richard manipulated me. I thought I was doing what was best for my career. Is that really what you think? I asked, leaning in closer. You think this is just about your job? You broke our trust, our marriage, everything we built together. And for what? A quick fling with a man who used you? She flinched at my words, but there was no way I could sugarcoat this. David, I've realized that I put my career before everything else, and it cost me everything, she admitted, tears streaming down her cheeks. I've lost you, and I don't know how to get you back. Getting me back? I laughed bitterly. You don't just get someone back after what you've done. You've shattered any chance of that. Rachel sat in silence, the weight of her reality pressing down on her. I know that I can't change the past, she finally said, her voice filled with defeat. But I want to make amends. I don't want to fight you. I want to help you get back on your feet. I'll step down from my position at ACG. I'll let them know it was all my fault. Is that supposed to make everything better? I shot back. You think stepping down will fix the damage you've caused? Your reputation is in shambles, and you've tarnished my name as well. This isn't just about losing your job, it's about losing your integrity. Rachel reached across the table, desperation etched on her face. Please, David, I need your forgiveness. I don't want to lose everything. I can't even recognize myself anymore. I paused, her words resonating deeply. I had once cared for this woman. The memories of our love danced in my mind, almost taunting me, but I couldn't allow myself to fall back into that trap. Rachel, forgiveness doesn't come easy. It's a process, and right now, I can't even think about that. Then what do you want? She asked, frustration seeping into her tone. Everything you built, every lie you told, comes crashing down, I replied, my voice firm. You need to face the consequences of your actions. That's the only way this can ever be resolved. As our conversation continued, I realized that Rachel was no longer the confident woman I had married. She was broken, stripped of her power and pride. But that didn't change the fact that she had hurt me deeply. I needed to walk away from this, for my sake, for my healing. Maybe we need to go our separate ways, I finally said, standing up. You need to face your demons alone. I can't help you anymore. David, please, she said, her voice breaking as she reached for my hand. I'll do anything. I'll make it right. I pulled my hand away, shaking my head. You've had your chance, Rachel. It's time for both of us to move on. As I walked out of the cafe, the weight of the past lingered behind me, but a newfound sense of freedom surged within. I had faced Rachel, confronted the pain head-on, and now it was time to reclaim my life. Days turned into weeks, and the media frenzy surrounding Rachel and Richard's affair gradually faded. The scandal had taken its toll, but I was determined not to let it define me. I started focusing on my own career, rebuilding my reputation, and rediscovering what truly mattered. I connected with Natalie more, and our friendship blossomed into something deeper. She had been a source of strength for me during this tumultuous time, and I could feel the chemistry between us growing stronger. I finally allowed myself to enjoy life again, one step at a time. One evening, as we sat together at a bar, laughing and reminiscing, I felt a wave of gratitude wash over me. I had emerged from the storm stronger than ever, ready to embrace whatever came next. The pain and betrayal had taught me valuable lessons, and I was ready to move forward. Rachel, meanwhile, was facing her own reality. I heard whispers that she had stepped down from ACG and was seeking therapy to confront her past decisions. I wished her well from a distance, knowing that the only way for either of us to heal was to learn from our mistakes. As I raised my glass to toast to new beginnings with Natalie, I realized I had finally found peace. My life was once again in my own hands, and I was ready to write my own story, a story of resilience, growth, and endless possibilities. The chapter with Rachel was closed, and I was more than ready to begin the next one.